Hello, my fellow Extraordinary Americans. I'm Cosmos Dar, and this is Extraordinary America. What is Extraordinary America about? You see, American identity is about freedom, the opportunity for a better life, and the pursuit of happiness. However, most Americans are not free when it comes to the financial front. Most Americans are suffering from financial slavery due to loss of jobs, stagnant wages, inflation, and debt of all kinds. Wealth and income inequality runs rampant across America, and the middle class is all but disappeared. So what is Extraordinary America about? Extraordinary America is about the abolition of financial slavery. It is about the financial freedom of the 99%. It is about the nation of immigrants and descendants of immigrants awakening and unleashing the extraordinary within themselves and setting themselves free. The path to financial freedom is through entrepreneurship and investing on the light side. It is about financial education, not only when it comes to money in the monetary systems, but also in regards to how to start a business, investing, especially when it comes to precious metals and real estate. In this podcast, I interview guests, many of whom came from humble beginnings, to see how they did it and how they attained financial freedom in their own lives and how they did business. And it is my hope that you will be inspired and you will want to awaken extraordinary within yourselves and realize the American dream. Once again, welcome to Extraordinary America.
It's a pleasure to be on your show, to get a chance to serve your amazing audience.
Thank you. And I appreciate you taking the time to do this episode with me. So can you tell me, the audience, a little bit more about yourself, your background, and how you got started?
Not to bore your audience with a long story, I'm going to try to keep it short and concise. So I was originally born in USSR. Now that same place is called as Ukraine, Donetsk. I then lived in Moscow, went to school in South Africa, and then finished my education in the United States. And I think part of the importance of my story is that I've not only born to be an American, I chose to be an American. I think that's a huge distinction that most people don't get to live through. And when it comes to being in America, going through my education first, I ended up starting a small side hustle business that was supposed to give me some coffee money. But with consistency and persistency, that business ended up scaling into a six-figure business and then eventually into a seven-figure business, which literally that I still own 20 years later, which is, a feat of its own, because some of the kids that I hire these days, and my business is actually older than them, which most entrepreneurs can't claim that title. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a brief summary of my story, and I'm happy to share any other additional questions or curiosities that you and your audience might have.
Yeah, Alexei, so tell me this, like, what was your strategic, I know you're an immigrant that came to America and then you made it happen, like you started a business and you succeeded in what you did. So what was your strategic vision and goal regarding your career? And what was your thought process all the way from like moving to America to starting a business and to where you are right now?
The interesting thing, I want to answer this question this way. When I was a kid, right? Like when, kids are usually asked, like, what do you want to be? You want to be a fireman? You want to be a spaceman? Fill in the blank, right? Everybody has their dreams. But for some reason, I don't even know why or how, I always wanted to be a business owner. I don't think at that age, I actually even know what that meant. But my first entrepreneurial experience actually happened when my dad invited me to gather cans of soda or bottles of soda and bring it back to him. So, he had a bit of a recycling business on the side. But I think it was more about teaching me that first lesson of business of leverage. And that was because he said, listen, if you bring me 8 bottles of soda, I'm going to give you 1 full one. And then he said, but if you bring me 15, I'll give you 3. Right. And then I started thinking, okay, well, if first I would gather all, 15 of them and bring it to him and he would give me the 3. And then I said, well, if I can find 8 and I can get somebody else, like a friend of mine, to find 8, I'll get a soda. He'll get a soda, but I'll get a bonus soda. And I think that was one of the first lessons that I learned in entrepreneurship, and then just got that a bit of an entrepreneurship bug. And for me, part of my luck is that I was born into a family that entrepreneurship was a normal thing. My mom was a business owner. My dad was in consulting and business ownership himself. So for me, it was a natural thing to do. And I know that's not the case with a lot of people because they usually start with a family of employees. And it's very hard to break that mindset. And when it comes to the vision, as I said, I started the businesses to do something on the side, right? My first, unofficial business, and when it came to the United States, when I was still going through high school, was actually building and putting together computers because that's something that I knew about, right? And then I had friends or my clients who didn't have that air of genius, and I was able to know where to get the parts, what they're priced at, and instead of going to one of the big boys that would just give you a basic computer for a pretty decent price, I would give them the best computer for the same price because I knew some of the elements that were important, or I had specialized knowledge that allow me to have an unfair advantage in the marketplace. And I think that's really an important point when it comes to entrepreneurship. What can you bring to the table that would add massive value that the other individual values more than the money or the price you're choosing to ask them for it? So hopefully that answers your question.
No, I mean, it's very interesting, Alexei, because one of the things that definitely I love knowing about people is like their motivation factor, right? So immigrants tend to have a different motivation factor for some reason that leads them towards entrepreneurship a lot of time. But as you were mentioning, a lot of people have the employee mindset, but in your case, you started having the entrepreneurial mindset. So my question to you, and for the sake of the audience, is what was that motivational factor that chose you to choose this more difficult path, but also a more rewarding path at the same time?
I think for me, I think it's just how my brain works as well. I would say I heard that statement and I completely agree with it. To an element, I'm psychologically unemployable. And the reason why is I have found the few jobs that I did have in my career, I would learn the skill and the entire job set, from the employee to the manager to potentially even running the store within 6 to 12 months. And then I would start to get bored and then I would start to disengage. And when it comes to the real um, reason why I do what I do, it's actually a little bit different. Somehow, some way, I'm not driven by money. I mean, I do like nice things and I have nice things in my life, but that's not what drives it. For me, it was always about the impact, the difference I can make in another person's life. Because even as a child, one of my favorite things, talk about you know, knowing at a very young age, but then going aside from that, and I think that's a super important lesson. See, as a kid, I loved, figuring out how things work, right? I would take apart my toys, put them back together because I wanted to know how do they work. And for me, that's the same in business that I do now. I do consulting. It's how do companies work? How do products work? Right. And then the second thing that I loved as well is being able to share with somebody that information because if it's vital to me, it may be vital to them of learning, how do you, as I call it now, how do you stop working hard and start playing smart? What are those efficiency ways? That's just how my brain works. But each and every one of your listeners can look at their life and ask themselves what they loved when they were a kid, because that could be a huge aha moment. Because even though I knew that as a kid, I chose to listen to the society, to the environment, right, to the education system, and go through the whole education system without realizing it was taking me off my path. Like, I wish I would have invested the time that I did through my education system and put it even more into my business, even more into my mentors. And that's one of the things that I believe that sometimes the traditional school system is a little bit outdated because by the time you learn something, the market has shifted most of the time. And these days, it's more prominent than ever with technologies like AI and Chat GPT and everything coming on the market. Things are not changing in decades, years. They're changing almost minute by minute. And that's where, you really want to be adaptable. And even if you don't get the mindset of an entrepreneur, what you can also be an amazing entrepreneur. And what that means is you can be an employee that actually understands and cares about your company doing better with you, and what are the skills that you can bring to the table so that happens, because there's a lot of amazing entrepreneurs, right? Number two, number three in the company, CEOs, CTOs, that are very attainable dreams and goals for some, versus going into complete entrepreneurship, because the truth is it's not for everybody, but it definitely is important to know about it, even if you're running a home-based business, because that's one of the other things that we have in America that I want to highlight just for the moment, is that we have two tax systems, right? We have the tax system of the employee, and we have a tax system of a business owner. See, employees have a cap on their income, where business owners have an unlimited amount of money that they can make, as long as they bring a product to the market that serves the market in a major way. And therefore, they can actually capture some of that amazing difference that is created in the marketplace. So hopefully that answers your question.
No, Alexa, you bring up so many important points. And one of the points that I do want to discuss with you is the concept of value. Because you see, a lot of people, they chase money, right? But as entrepreneurs, what we do is we fix problems that society has, they have problems, and then we're the solution. We try to provide a solution, but we're also providing value. And one of the things people got to know is money chases value. And if you are going to chase value and you're going to chase excellence, money is a natural byproduct. But a lot of times, a lot of people have this mindset where they need to chase money and success. But it's kind of like there's a, in Matrix they have the red pill and blue pill concept, where you in the blue pill world, you have a certain way of doing things that seem idealized but it doesn't work. But then you have the red pill where you see the reality, and the reality is money will chase you if you're providing value. But I don't know, like, is that an accurate statement, or what's your opinion on that?
I love you highlighting that point, and I honestly completely agree with you, because one of the things that I've learned in life is that money will always outrun you if you're chasing it. But if you allow it to come to you, you'll be surprised how quickly it does, by choosing to become a person of value, right? Just like you said, a simplification of the business concept is that we are problem solvers. If we can solve somebody's problem, we can be compensated for that solution. And the bigger problem that you solve, the bigger compensation you're able to receive. And see, and that's the key thing, is that so often we are done a disservice by being pointed into a career or a path a lot of the times because of the financial gains. But a lot of times, you have to think about the quality of your life as well, in my opinion, because at the end of the day, when you're on your deathbed, they actually have done a study that shows that the amount of money that an individual made was one of the least factors that actually brought the quality of life up, right? It was Gary Vee, who's a mentor and somebody that I've been following for years. One of the things that he talks about all the time, if you're working, for let's say 7 days a week or 6 days a week or even 5 days a week, but you hate the process, what is that lifestyle and income really worth? What if you could do something that you love, right? That is you're being inspired to do. And this is where you have to take a little bit of time and slow down and sit down and ask yourself, what is that cause? What is that big problem? Who's the person that, if you can help them, it would truly make a difference in their life? See, for me, it's the kids out of college and school systems, because a lot of times they have a degree, an expensive piece of paper that doesn't provide safety or even a path anymore. And so for me, that is the community that I am a huge advocate and a champion for. That's why I create the free complimentary resources, the teachings that I do for free, because if they can show up, they can implement and get a result, they'll be on the right path. And so I want your audience to really think about, you who's listening to me right now, I want you to think about, what are you truly passionate? What is that one thing that you can really be inspired by, being pulled towards? And one of the exercises that I actually run with my high-end clients all the time when they come on board, I ask them to write down at least 15 things that they are living for, right? Maybe it's their family, maybe it's their kids, maybe it's having a nice home, maybe it's being able to go on vacations, maybe it's being able to create volunteer trips, or listen, the sky is the limit. Just write down those 15 things so that you can get very conscious and clear. What are those elements that actually make a difference in your life? If it's spending time with family and friends, put it on the list. And then you want to prioritize that list from the most important, the most impactful, to least important, least impactful. And once you've done that, I want to ask you one more step. And this is the critical step. Look at that list and ask yourself, these are the 15 things that I'm living for. What is the one thing on that list that I'm willing to die for?
Wow.
See, for me, that one thing is connection and relationships. If I can eradicate the division, the loneliness in this world, I'm happy to be done with my time on this earth. Like, if God, came to me right now and said, listen, I'm going to give you the dream of your dreams. There will be no war anymore. People will feel connected, valued, and inspired. But there's only one caveat. Your time on this earth is done. I'll be like, I'm done. Let's do this. Right? And so that is the gift I want to give to your audience, is find out what you're willing to die for. Because then life becomes very simple and clear.
And Alexa, I would like to add that you see, like a lot of people think they're going to live forever, but once you realize that your life is short, that everything is impermanent, then it clarifies your mind because you realize that every day is a beautiful gift. And of course, we live in an age right now where loneliness has become an epidemic, a pandemic almost. Because, right, we have had this technology and social media where it's supposed to have brought people closer, but for some reason, now everybody spends so much time online, they've actually stopped themselves from actually connecting in real life. And it's something that I've noticed across not just in America but across the world, you know.
Oh, I completely agree with you, right? Social media, right, is a tool, but it's unfortunately is weaponized against us versus for us these days on the mass scale, right? Just like you said, people consuming social media a lot of times, unfortunately, feel more disconnected now than ever before. They've actually done studies on this. And so my question to you is, how can you become hyper vigilant and hyper aware of who are the people that are important in your life, and how can you use technology in your advantage and create deeper connections? I'll give you a perfect example. I haven't talked to an individual for about 4 to 5 years, right? And I was just on my social media yesterday. He posted, an important piece that caught my attention of a live that he did, a few days ago. And right away I said, you know what? That's a person I want to create an intention to connect with. I called the person right away and I reconnected them. So we can use these tools in our advantage, or it can be used against us as a weapon. So hopefully, you're able to take away this conscious concept and bring into your life to bring in better and quality relationships into your life.
No, for sure. And Alistair, on another note, which is connected to this, like, what do you, according to you, what is the biggest challenge that people face when it comes to connecting with other people and also in entrepreneurship as well? And because they're ultimately interrelated, like entrepreneurship, building relationships and everything, like it's all part of this process. But what do you think is the biggest challenge that prevents people from connecting on a deeper level? And also, like, what do you think it is in entrepreneurship?
I love that question because we were just literally discussing this in my mastermind. We're having a discussion of like, what is that one thing that if we just solve that, it will solve a lot of other problems. And in my humble opinion and experience, it's ego. Let me explain. See, so often these days, whenever we're choosing to connect, we connect from our ego. And what I mean by that, we connect from a place of what can I get from this relationship, right? Which breaks the dynamics, the natural dynamics of a relationship, right? If everybody is coming to you, they're coming to you with an ask, it breaks the relationship, right? The best way I can explain it is this way that I talk to my clients. I talk about relational capital, and each relationship is being like a bank account that you get to open in the bank of your life, right? And if you were to open a brand new bank account and you were to go into a branch and try to withdraw money from it, you probably can't. And if you demand on it, it would be considered a robbery and you'll probably be put in jail. But that's the thing that we continue doing in our personal relationship and our business relationships every day. My invitation to each and every one of you, to you who's listening, start becoming a person of value. Connect with the person on a heart center, on what's important to them. Actually call them to find out how are they doing. And don't throw away that question. Actually get them to share with you what's going on in their life. Ask them what's important to them. What are they working on? And either A, connect them to the solution, maybe be a solution, or become a champion for their solution. You'll be surprised and amazed how that just simple concept will change the trajectory of your relationships and therefore the trajectory of your life and your business. The same business, same concept is very easily applied to business. If you start seeing your clients as partners of value versus just customers, you will start winning in a way that you've never won before. When you know their problem much greater, you spend more time with their problem that they have, and you communicate that value of saying, hey, I know you have this problem. By the way, I've been working on this problem for a year, 2 years, 10 years, in my case, 15 years in consulting, right? And here's the problems that one, you're probably going through. And here's 5 to 7 problems you don't even know that even exist because you haven't gone through the process just yet. And that process can be applied in any area, right? Maybe you're teaching music. Maybe you are baking, right? It doesn't matter what it is, but when you're able to show up as a person of value, a person that people say yes to before they even know what the invitation is, you win in your life, your business, and the impact you can create in the world to become an amazing American, the way that it was intended by our founding fathers.
That is amazing, Alexa. And you brought up a point that is actually connected to spirituality, at least Eastern spirituality, where the biggest thing that stops us from becoming one with God, which is basically everywhere, is actually our ego. Because you amongst the yogis in the Himalayas, they meditate, but the purpose of the meditation is to transcend their ego consciousness and go to a higher consciousness. And it seems that you're using the same principles in business as well, because it's when we go on a heart-to-heart level and we're looking for that connection in the relationships, we are transcending, we're operating from a higher plane, which is also the plane of thrive and abundance. But I don't know, would you say, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I love that my methodology and tested principles align with, you know, the concept that you shared. I mean, that's not how I learned them, but I think when it comes to the evolution of your heart and your soul, I think you have the opportunity to arrive there without even, studying meditation or other things, even though I think those are super powerful. and some of the things that I actually use in my life at this point. And the thing I wanted to share is this. One of the concepts that I always share with my clients when it comes to business, I talk to them, connect with your heart, not with your business. Because here's what happens every time. If you have a business opportunity or invitation and you try to connect with a person through just that, you have at best one chance. But what I share with my clients is say, create a genuine relationship because high level individuals and high net worth individuals that have a lot of money, a lot of influence, your ideal clients, they probably know at least 1 to 3 people that do exactly what you do. So my question to my clients is, what can be your unfair advantage? And a lot of times, big business is done because of the relationships, not because of the metrics. Meaning, it's not a matter of how good the deal is, what is that you're doing, or maybe even an unfair advantage. A lot of times that I have seen, time and time again, it's because you have no like and trust. See, very successful individuals, they don't talk about money because they already have it. They talk about the impact that they're looking to create in the world. And if talk about a gem, if your audience, the person that's listening to me right now, or maybe even watching me, consider testing this idea. Start talking about the impact that you want to create in the world, the problem that you're solving, the solution that you're delivering, and just watch how your conversations, your relationship, and your business changes because you'll start attracting a different level of clients and partners that can go on the journey with you because you have a bigger cause. And listen, the bigger cause could be creating the most amazing family experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can
Yep.
teach others how to create a great family life. And it can be as simple as that because some haven't spent the time to research. How do you have better, personal relationship? How do you have better ability to raise the kids, right? And it's such a simple concept, but the foundation still applies. If you're a person of value, if you have a solution to a real problem that people value, you'll be compensated for that solution. So hopefully that answers your question.
And that is amazing. That is amazing. And no, yeah, no, it does. And Alexei, I had to ask you, like you're an immigrant that has an entrepreneurial mindset, and America's identity is also about an entrepreneurial immigrant mindset, and it's also the land of the free and the place where dreams are made. Like, what is your opinion on that identity that America has and its impact on Americans?
You know, I've been an American. I've been in America for over 20 years, plus. And I think sometimes, unfortunately, as Americans, we forget the origin of our story, right? And what I mean by that is our founding fathers were immigrants, first and foremost. Granted, they probably didn't do the best job of connecting with the natives of this land. And that's the stain on our history. But that said, this beautiful country was built by bringing the best to the table. And I feel at times we forget these days that is the case. A lot of times, unfortunately, there's no legal proper ways for extraordinary individuals to come into the United States. I feel that those opportunities are almost non-existent before because like when there's many different ways to come into the United States, whether through, a work visa or other elements. And I wish that our government would remember our origin and have legal ways for people to come into this country, to add value to this country and to grow this idea in this country further. Because when we stop growing, we start dying. And unfortunately, that's more and more what I've been seeing out there is more division, more ego, and even less respect.
Mhm.
because when the pandemic happened, when the crisis in Russia and Ukraine happened, it was amazing for me to see that people were no longer respectful of other people's opinion, right? In the 70s, people may have not agreed with you, but they respected you enough to actually hear you out, to have that communication stay in place so that Cold War doesn't happen, right? Or additional wars don't happen. And I feel that's one of the biggest things that I'm seeing, that I'm working on, helping with the solution of connecting individuals on real level, real human level, right? Because I've had the blessing and opportunity to travel all over the world. And the crazy thing that I keep seeing again and again and again is that people are a lot more alike than they are different. We all want a safe place for us and our family. We all want to be compensated for our gifts or our solutions. And we want to have maybe that impact or the quality of life that, I believe that people should have the opportunity to earn. And yet, more and more these days, it's all about the politics, who's attacking who, and it's the government. I think a lot of times we'll get into the conversation that I am no place being a part of. And it's one thing to protect the minorities, but unfortunately, I'm seeing more and more where now minorities is being weaponized against the majorities.
No,
And
for
that's goes against the principles, I believe, what this country was basically based on.
No, totally. I mean, we are ultimately like those are the principles that made this country extraordinary in the first place, because it was that immigrant identity and that entrepreneurial spirit that led to everything. And but inevitably, what we see in civilization, we reach a point of staticness because uh, like the life becomes easy, right? And things become easy, and like everything comes to us easy after the initial hard work, and then we just and like good times create like weak situations, and then from those weak situations come the hard times, and I think we're in that phase right now, to be honest.
No, I completely agree with you. I think you're quoting Scott Peterson, who's somebody that I highly respect. I think he has an amazing mind and concepts. And I believe it was him that said, great times make weak men make bad times make strong men. And obviously, I don't want to be disrespectful to women. I think when he's using the word man, he means men and women. I
Yeah.
want to make sure to include that because we have some amazing women entrepreneurs and amazing women that are making a difference in this world. And I want to make sure to highlight their contribution, just like some of the amazing men that are in that transformation and fight with them. And that's where part of my message really lies. Let's connect. Let's stop dividing men, women, black, white, um, you know, masked, unmasked. These are weapons of mass division. Let's say no to division. Let's connect on a human level. And maybe that's part of my experience because I grew up in USSR. I didn't see the worst of times, but I saw enough where the way that people survive is through collaboration and neighborhoods. Their neighbors, whenever somebody had a party, it was like a potluck. People would bring things to the table to make sure that, let's say if it was somebody's birthday, that table was full. And it wasn't because of one person, it was a community coming together. And that's my big war cry to each and every one of you who's listening. Let's start creating connection and fight against division.
No, yeah.
Consider having a conversation with somebody that you may not know or understand yet, and actually ask them why do they believe what they believe. And you'll be surprised that they have some very powerful reasons to be believing what they believe. And if you can have compassion, and empathy, I think that will change the game.
No, no, totally. And one of the things that you mentioned is that you've been like you were in the former Soviet Union, and then it's just a different like there was a lot of poverty there because of communist ideas, and then you see entrepreneurship and you see capitalism, which is not perfect, but it gives you an opportunity to succeed in life, right? It gives you and like basically you see the contrast, and as an immigrant, you can basically appreciate that. But if you've been a fish inside salt water your entire time, you cannot see anything different. And I feel like people that have been brought up here, they have been in this situation their entire lives. So how are they going to know what they have if they haven't seen the other side? Sometimes, yeah, you have to have a contrast, you have to have a difference in order to understand and appreciate what you already have. Yeah.
I love that. And one of my favorite quotes is by one of my mentors. He talks about the fact, actually, it wasn't a quote, it was actually a statement of facts. They did a study that showed that an immigrant is 4 times more likely to become a millionaire, right? Because I believe of that contrast, and they know what not having is like. And I think sometimes that is the disservice that we do with our kids when we give them everything without teaching them the value of earning things. Because then when they become adults, because they've learned that, hey, I can get anything for nothing, they expect everything for nothing. And that's where we get into these elements of unrest where people have forgotten how to be of value and service to others. Because collaboration is the greatest power on this earth, right? Communication and collaboration is the greatest gift that was gifted to us as a species, and that's how we survive. Because we're definitely not the smartest, we're not the biggest, and we're not the fastest animal out there. But it was through our collaboration, our connection, that we were able to survive as a species. And if we don't get back onto the same path of connection again, we're gonna go through some very hard times, unfortunately.
No, I mean, yeah, but sometimes, I mean, you're right about that, but sometimes people have to go through hard times in order for them to appreciate what they have, right? So maybe it is inevitable, but hopefully, like they can appreciate that without having to do that just by looking at the rest of the world. But Alexei, on a different note, I know you're doing this thing called One Relationship Away. Can you tell me, the audience, a little bit more about this and the premise of how it got started?
You know, that's a great question because one relationship with concept is not something like a brand or just a slogan. This is the philosophy of my life. And the truth of it is, it actually came at one of the lowest points of my life. After building, you know, a 7-figure company, I ended up becoming depressed and suicidal, right? With having dream cars in my garage, with having a dream fiance, with having all the things that I had, I lost my way because I was living the life of luxury. I wasn't living a life of meaning. I
Wow.
lost the meaning in my life. And because of that, see, I want to share with you one quote that I've shared on stage all over the world. You can live months without food. You can week, sorry, if you can edit this out, this would be great. You can live weeks without food. You can live days without water. You can live minutes without air, but you cannot live a second without hope or impact. See, and that was the moment that really brought me into this concept. See, when I was in my lowest point of my life, right, where I was in so much emotional pain over the things that were going on in my life behind the scenes, I was for the first time realizing how somebody could consider a suicide as a solution for releasing pain. And thankfully, I didn't go any further but I spent almost a month in my bed without being able to get out of it, like physically get out of it, where it felt like I was mentally paralyzed. I would try to move my arms and then they would move. I would try to move my legs and then they would move. But one beautiful thing that came from it is I believe I got a chance to see a different light or a different way because I was able to reconnect with a mentor of mine who spoke service and impact into my life. I started following her teaching literally like by breadcrumbs. And when I realized that asking myself, what was that one most important thing that was in my life? And when looking in my entire life, successes and failures, I realized that it was all about relationships. And what I mean by that, if somebody gave me the right piece of information that made a difference in my life, or they shared a referral that made a difference, or those amazing individuals that chose to partner with me in the moments where I needed support, that was the key thing that made me realize that my life was going to become about relationships. Because there was another mentor of mine by the name of Jim Rohn. He said a famous quote about, "You are the average of the five people you choose to surround yourself with." But the funny thing was, in that low state, I couldn't have the bandwidth or the capacity for the five. I said, if I can get to the five, who's the one person? And that's where the whole concept started with. Obviously, it evolved over time to one relationship away, but I truly believe that each and every one of us, just one relationship away from the life of our dreams or the impact we can create in the world. And it's just being open enough to see who's in your network that can add to your mission and vision and the impact you want to create in the world. So that was the origin and the birth of one relationship way concept.
Wow. So, Alexa, you had everything. You had your fiance, you had like your cars, you had a successful business, and you were still looking for meaning. Like a lot of people in America think that this is what success is all about. Like you reach the points of success and then you still weren't happy. Like it's fascinating, but it's ultimately the lesson that America as a nation has to learn that materialism and consumerism isn't going to make them happy ultimately.
I think it was Jim Carrey that said that, you know, wealth and money is not everything, but I hope that you get to experience that to realize it. But you also don't have to go on that journey and trust somebody that's been there. Yes, having financial freedom is important. Having, enough money that you can have the time freedom is important. And those are not the greatest factors, in my humble opinion, to the quality of the individual's lives. They actually did a 75-year study by Harvard University. It was the longest study that's ever been done on the topic, where they have taken 100 people from their birth to almost their death. Some have passed away already, some of their in their very old age, and they would literally every year they would have these surveys, and what they have found that the number one factor when it comes to health, quality of life, wealth, and impact was actually the quality of the relationships that people chose to have in their life. To me, that is a mind-blowing study, but it's also very important because knowing that you can start playing the game smart. Number one, do the exercise that I talked about. Find out, one, what are you living for? What are those key things that actually add value to your life? Number two, find out what is that one thing that you're willing to die for, right? And once you're clear on those two things, the third element that makes all the difference, start creating a community around the cause. And
Wow.
you'll be amazed, one, how more successful and how faster you become successful by serving the community. And two, the quality of your life will exponentially change. If somebody actually does this, I promise you, in the next 6 to 12 months, you will be emailing, Cosmos or me and saying, "Oh my God, thank you for changing the trajectory of our lives."
No, I appreciate this so much, Alexei. And Alexei, can you tell me, like, are there any projects that you're doing right now that you want the audience to get a glimpse into?
You know what? As far as project, I always talk about being a person of value. And I not only talk about, I act upon it, right? As our relationship, right? Talk about one relationship way. I want to honor that relationship. And because of our relationship, I'm going to gift each and every one of your listeners a copy of my book called Network and Grow Reach: 10 Secrets to Bring Extraordinary Life into Your Life and Business. See, these are the basic principles that I use on a daily basis to create strategic, powerful relationships in my life. But you know what? I'm going to go a step further. They can also obviously subscribe to my podcast or at least even listen to some of the most impactful people in my life. These are people like um, Mike Dillard, somebody who had the once Mike Dillard, who was the owner and host of the Self-Made Man podcast. He was the person that I used to listen to at my lowest points in my life. He was the person that inspired me to start this journey, right? Even though it's taking a few years, but you will hear podcasts with him and others. And I look forward to having Cosmos on it as well to share his principles on how you can create an unfair advantage in your life. So I'm excited about that. And last but not least, I want to end with gifting you the ultimate gift that I can give you. And to me, it's the gift of one relationship away. And what I mean by that, because of our relationship, because you're hearing this podcast, you've obviously have connected with Cosmos. You're part of this community. And I want to serve this community to the best of my ability by gifting you a network, a mastermind, and an amazing group of resources that will give you an unfair advantage when it comes to your life, your business, and the impact that you want to create in the world. And it's called the Ultimate Dream Hacker Mastermind. What I'm going to do for this community, as long as you reach out to me or get the book and make sure that to mention that you're coming from the Amazing American podcast, I will gift you that community for $1 a month. When I'm going to launch it publicly, it will be at minimum at $100 a month because the value is going to be there. This is the community that I get to hang out with. If you want to get to know me, Cosmos better, because he's going to be invited into it, come hang out with us. Let us help you to have an unfair advantage in your life so that you can start living the life of your dreams, not someday, but today.
Thank you so much, Alexei, for that. And Alexei, how can the audience connect with you and get to know you personally, or like if they had to reach out to you, how would they do that?
You know what? The best way to do it is just either A, go to networkandgrowrich.com or just scan the QR code. That's right up there. Or I'm going to ask Cosmos, our amazing host, to actually put it in your show notes as well, so that if you're driving, you're listening while you're running, you can actually go back to the show notes and just click the link and get all the gifts.
Thank you so much, Alexei. And Alexei, I'm so appreciative and grateful that you came into this podcast and shared your wisdom and insights with us, because these are the things we need for success, not just in entrepreneurship, but in life as well. And I do hope that you take the time to come back to this podcast at a later time.
It definitely would be my pleasure and an honor, as I love to serve those that are choosing to make this world a better and a brighter place.
Thank you. And I want to end this podcast by letting my fellow extraordinary Americans know that, hey, look, there's an extraordinary within each and every one of us. It's our duty to awaken it and unleash it. Until next time, bye for now. Hey, everyone. Thank you for watching Extraordinary America. If you like what you see, please do subscribe to our podcast and share it with others. Remember that the best investment that you can make in your lifetime is in your own financial education, for it is knowledge that truly sets us free. Also, remember that inflation is diluting your purchasing power, which in turn increases financial bondage. The practical thing to do is to protect the loss of your purchasing power and invest in precious metals or the right cryptocurrencies. Lastly, never forget that you are an extraordinary American. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.